Hey, YouTube. We are back with episode 19 of our Malekith playthrough, playing Total Warhammer 2, modded with SFO Grimhammer 2, and we're going to be doing something a little bit different this time around. So,
knows no limits.
I accidentally, when I first recorded this episode, didn't capture my talking, my speech. So, unfortunately, we're going to have to improvise here a little bit. I can record over it and kind of provide a running commentary. I think my plan, normally I do this in the process live, but you know what? We're going to do what we can do. So I think what I'm thinking over here is that I'm going to debating attacking Skeggy, which would get me at war with
Dark Blade!
Marathi. But what I think I'm going to do instead is go down and attack the Hunt Marshal's expedition. They've only got a couple settlements, so that'll net us a good amount of money in theory from sacking settlements or raiding, sacking them or raising them, depending. And then I've got Ricardo over here building up his siege towers and battering rams so that I can eventually attack the exiles of Nehekara, or the exiles of Nehek, rather, I believe they're called. The Grand Hierophant Kotep. I've got this guy sitting over here kind of keeping an eye on that one settlement that the exiles have, the Tomb Kings have up there, and I think I'm going to start sending... Yeah. It looks like I'm going to heal. I'm healing Malekith there a little bit because I want his single entity monsters to heal. They don't heal from the sacking, so I kind of need to... yeah, I kind of need to heal them. This is really the only good way to heal them. I think the other way would be using the Black Arcs, but the Black Arcs don't heal nearly as much. Or rather, they're buffing the healing that I get from the settlements as well. So they're kind of double healing my single entities, which I'm going to need eventually in future. So let's see. We've got this guy. I think he successfully damages some buildings in Hag Hall, which jerk. And then this guy successfully assaults the garrison over in that temple of, I can't read it because it's low quality video on my end. It shouldn't be on your end. But either way, they assaulted a garrison there. Now, Wolfric the Wanderer, I believe he's going to want a military alliance. There is no way I am taking a military alliance with Norska again. You can do it, and they are useful enough. I think in SFO they've gotten pretty great buffs. But if you go ahead and do that, you're going to open yourself up to Norska raiding everybody and getting like overly aggressive because suddenly, look, they have this crazy strong ally. Alright, now I got the Rise of Chaos. So in the... when I first recorded this, I actually recorded myself reading out the whole thing. But since I can't read it because of the low quality of my video at the moment, the best I got is to say that the envoys of chaos are definitely invading from the north, and I make a rather unfortunate blunder that we're going to see play out here near the end of this episode, which I have a feeling is going to color my color what I'm eventually going to have to deal with in future Malekith episodes, which I don't know. It's kind of frightening here, and I have a feeling it's going to either spell the end for this campaign or put me on the back foot pretty heavily and open myself up to getting war declared on me by a lot of different people, especially because of my reputation at the moment. It's relatively low because I declared war on the there's that temple I was talking about before that gets the garrison assaulted, but because I declared war on what was his name, the one vampire pirate, Count Noctilus, there it is. So right here is that they're my assumption is going to be attacking the vampires, probably Clan Scryer down there. They're not going to attack Norska, obviously, but they're going to attack probably Clan Molder, Clans, no, not, sorry, is it Clan Molder? I think it's Clan Molder. Clan Eschen, and the Vampire Counts, and the von Karstein bloodlines. So Vlad and Manfred are going to probably get attacked first because they've pretty much taken over the entire empire. So that's my assumption, but I am eventually disabused of that notion because I'm assuming I have a buffer of chaos because I've made kind of nice with Norska in the north, which turns out super to not be the case. Okay, now I make my next tactical mistake here is that for reasons I cannot fathom, I've decided to...
We have a deal.
Well, so initially my plan is to go down south and attack the Hunt Marshal's expedition, which totally a fine thought process. Like, okay, let's go make some quick cash off of somebody that is basically a nothing opponent. I've got those 4 armies pretty much. I've got 3 full stacks and 1 half stack. Heading to the Hunt Marshal's expedition was really, really weak. I can take them out pretty easily. I've got Malice Darkblade, Crone Hellebron, and a couple of Black Arcs. Highly leveled Black Arcs, so they're going to be doing a lot of damage. They're going to be able to take out pretty easily the Hunt Marshal's expedition. In fact, this is, if I'm being perfectly honest here, this type of force is excessive, is super overkill for what I need. I could probably take them out with just Malice and the Black Arc and send Crone Hellebron up north to help out with the Exiles of Nehek. But so we got 1 army there and another settlement down there. So yeah, see Samson, what I'm saying is I'm gonna send Malekith and that other army over to the larger settlements and those 4 to the smaller, which is just backwards. So I've got a Pyrrhic victory over here. I've decided to fight this battle, I believe, because I don't want to lose my Harpies, but I think I end up losing, I believe it's my, is it my Harpies? I lose something. I know I lose something, but I can't recall what that something is off the top of my head. So I've got 4 towers and 1 battering ram, 3 gates, and I'm gonna make a choice here that I kind of regret in retrospect, but I think the thought process was sound enough. The only issue is that their magic is gonna do a lot of damage. His magic specifically, the Grand Hierophant Khatep, is going to do a lot of damage to me that I was not expecting, because at least in the vanilla game, the lore of Nahakara is not that powerful, but it looks like in SFO Grimhammer they've updated a lot of the lore of Nehekara to make it more powerful, or he's just a really adept caster and my soldiers are relatively low tier and I don't have a solid answer for the Grand Hierophant. Luckily, he doesn't have access to his artillery mount because that would kind of mess me up a lot more, but he does have access to the Tomb Bark mount, which I haven't actually played with because I tend to play more with what's his name? Arkin the Black. He's kind of my favorite out of the Tomb Kings. He's got that bit of vampire count flavor to it. So what I'm gonna do here, yeah, I'm kind of looking over all of my army abilities and all that, and seeing that I've got a lot of holding potential from my infantry troops, and I've got the 2 summons, the Manticore summons off of my Beast Sorceress, which is going to be super useful, and I've also got the 2 Manticores, the Harpies, and my Dragon, so I've got a lot of flying power, and in retrospect, I probably should have used that as kind of like cycle charges rather than throwing them way into the back, which is what I'm going to do once we take a look here. So I've learned a lot from this fight, which kind of sucks that I had to go through that process, but you know what? Now I know. In future, better apply my troops to where they're actually going to be useful, rather than shutting something down that doesn't matter. So my thought process, well, I'll go through it here in a second. So what I'm saying here is the Naggarond horsemen and the those chariots are not super useful, so I don't think they're going to cause me much issue um, right away. So my first task here is to kind of reorganize how they have my infantry. The AI tends to put infantry in odd places, so I'm going to take the spears, I think my healthiest spears, or my most damaged spears, it looks like from what I can tell, and put them on the battering ram, and then the 3 Black Orc Corsairs I'm going to put in the 3 towers, and put that last tower. So I'm just going to man it so that I can move it away, because I'm not actually going to use it. I'm going to have them in the back, and their purpose initially was going to be keeping an eye out for the Ushapti summon, and then I was going to use my archers, which outrange their archers, to kind of pepper from afar. And I've also got these. Oh, I forget the name. They're mage horsemen. Yeah, I lost the name. It's gonna be there. I think I panned over it for a moment. Which I didn't use their spells to the greatest effectiveness as I could have. And I kind of want the archer, my dark sharders to spread out as much as possible, and I'm also putting my 2 big beefy boys. Since they've got Vanguard from the stance, the Dark Elf stance, I'm putting them over to the left there to kind of go and break through that western gate. The issue that I find, and then I'm going to putting my flying troops over to the side because they're going to go in the way back, which again now I know is a super mistake. But they're going to go in the way back to attempt to
Merciless warriors.
pin down their caster, but it's kind of pointless because the caster isn't one to be pinned down easily because he's in that tomb bark. Now I'm setting up I'm spreading out my archers because I don't want them to get hit with the Lore of Nehek. They've got that one ability that oh, I forget the name, some kind of sandstorm or another. But they end up clumping a lot, and he ends up hitting me pretty good with it anyway by the end, so it was sort of a moot point. My sorceress gets pretty damaged at this point. I'm going to gamble and actually be successful, yep. So I gain a good deal of magic, and I'm going to begin the battle, and we're going to see that it goes not... I do better, so I do better than I was expecting, but not as well as I could have. I feel like I could have done this one a little bit better. Could have applied a few things a little bit differently. So I'm sending the... I'm going to send the battering ram against the gate in the front. Those towers up to those walls to kind of hit the archers as much as I can. Hit the relevant troops, and then I'm going to send the last one kind of over there to hit that archer and tomb prince. I'm sending my flying units to the rear to attack their flying units, but they were holding their flying units in reserve, and honestly those carrion were not my biggest threat. I should have ignored the carrion completely and just focused my flying units to devastate their infantry as much as I could. You can see they're already casting a spell. I'm not sure if that's something that the Tomb Kings have specifically, or if that's something the Grand Hierophant had. That he was able to cast those spells, or if that's something they get from their towers. But my caster now is going to be using the Manticore summon to kind of take out some of those archers so they don't hit my my beasts, the Hydra and the Charybdis, as badly with all their arrows, and that's actually not a bad strategy. It's kind of a distraction tool right there. Since it's a throwaway unit, it's totally fine. And there you can see, I think that's my Charybdis taking a lot of damage right there. Or no, that's my Hydra. That's my Hydra, I believe. Again, hard for me to tell with the low quality video I have. So he's going to, so that Manticore is going to go up there and do some damage, where I'm going to put the Sorceress in the back because she just took really heavily concentrated fire. So we're going to send the archers to take out some targets as much as they're capable. The horsemen, the Doomfire Warlocks, there it is. I knew I'd remember them eventually. The Doomfire Warlocks, they're going to kind of sit in the back for a long time. And again, this is where I kind of mess up on my thought process, where I'm sending those guys to the back where they don't belong rather than sending them up front, and to kind of mess with people as much as I can. I could have used that Lure of the Pale Queen to freeze them in place had they decided to come down and actually try to attack. They would have set them still for 15 seconds, which is always useful. So the Hydra does have regeneration, and so does the Charybdis to a point. It has that's the Hydra with another tick. I thought the Charybdis maybe had that ability, but I might have misinterpreted that and assumed the Charybdis also had some healing. So I think I had them go after something they shouldn't have. Eventually I send one of my Manticores against a grounded target, and that ends up kind of messing with, I can't
We are ready.
my highly mobile units are not able to be highly mobile. I never actually got to see what did so much damage. So the unit that I have, the spearman that I have, like you can't see it right now because I've scrolled away from it, but the spearman that I have on the battering ram. See, this is where I tell one of my manticores to go after those archers rather than having them pull out of this engagement, because there's no point in this engagement. That sends them to the That sends my Manticore to the ground, which gives access to the Ushabti, the Naggarond horsemen, all kinds of people. And honestly, that is not going to be where the Manticore shines. The Manticore's anti-infantry, like mostly anti-archer. Like that is kind of his function. And what I'm doing is I'm forcing him to attack something that is way, way outside his comfort zone. Yeah, he goes after the archers initially, but then he gets into a fight with all kinds of other stuff, and that's messing with his abilities right there. And I'm trying to get as close as I can, but the Grand Hierophant has this ability that messes with my ability timers. It puts them on an extra 15-second cooldown, making it so that I can't use my breath weapon right away, and I would like to use it on clumped up enemies. You can see my Harpy's already taking massive damage, and I'm using the Lure of the Pale Queen to keep the Ushabti from charging in, but it's not actually able to freeze the I thought it was able to freeze the those carrion, but they're not actually able to be frozen by that, so that was kind of a moot point. Now I'm sending my two monsters, the two big beasties, two big boys, after the gate there to break it down as quickly as possible, so I can get the Doomfire Warlocks in there so they can help out with some people. So and then my sorceress has recovered a bit of her leadership, so she's actually able to take a more active role in this fight now. I was thinking of sending her over to Grand Hierophant to use that ability, which kind of also ends up with her getting super heavily damaged at one point. Since I'm finally able to use it, I decided to target the archers, the skeleton archers, but they're relatively weak already, so it's kind of, again, it's another moot point. Or rather, they're not weak at all, and then it doesn't actually do as much damage as I would have liked, because they're not overly clumped, and add to that, again, what is the point of hitting those archers way back there when they can't really do anything by the time they get up to me? You know, they're kind of spent as far as stamina is concerned. They got to run away. They're very slow. There's hardly a point to go back there and attack them. They're the reserve force. Save something for the reserve force. Don't, throw half of my troops at the reserves when they're the reserves, right? So it's kind of a mistake on my part. I shouldn't have thrown that much. I could have been cyclocharging with my manticores and then being able to deal damage that way up on the walls, either distracting some people or either distracting some of their archers, keeping them put while my towers get there. All kinds of things I could have done instead of this. This kind of throws away a lot of my more useful units, which is kind of unfortunate. But you know what? That's the way of things. So the Manticores are actually doing a really good job against those Carrion. The Carrion are nothing to do any good with. So this is where it deals a lot of damage to those Spearmen, and they aren't able to properly recover. So I have to replace one band of Spearmen with another band of Spearmen to push that siege engine, that battering ram, to the gates, and then I actually have them equip the battering ram and then totally forget to give them the order to charge the gate. So they just kind of sit there mindlessly on that battering ram, just being like, should we go? Do we want to go? So the Manticore Summon is getting pushed, has his leadership broken, which is totally fine. He did his job. He's distracting those archers. I think right now he's getting attacked by spearmen.
Cold-blooded killers.
And it's about here that I realize that I have all my archers on skirmish mode, so I'm going to deactivate all that. I'm going to pull them off of skirmish mode, and I'm going to set them to defense mode so they don't chase after their targets unnecessarily. And you can see that that Manticore is breaking those two units of Carrion. At least one of them is breaking them, and it will probably work its way through the other one. So, like, maybe a summoned Manticore would actually do well over here, because it's okay. Here, AI, get distracted by this summoned Manticore, and it would deal some damage to the Carrion, but it wouldn't matter that it would die. Instead of sending my two permanent Manticores against a fight that there's probably not a good way they can win. So it's just thoughts in future. Now what's nice is that Ricarth is really strong on that dragon, and I also have got that potion of toughness, which is going to give him I believe that's melee defense, healing, and some physical resistance. And I'm also going to use the sacrifice unique to SFO, which is going to boost my murderous prowess, which is really good. I'm not sure what... I think that was my harpies getting wiped out, or just fleeing completely off the field. Now at one point I have I believe it's the Hydra succumb to a bug, which really sucks. What he's going to do is he's going to pass through the wall by mistake. Which ultimately is to my advantage in part, because it's kind of cool. They just do a thing. Now the unfortunate part about this a little bit is that I have an art. I have an ability. So this is where my spearmen flee, and I have to replace them, which kind of defeats the purpose of sending those spearmen back. Is that they were going to protect from the Ushabti, which now they can't do. Though in truth, having that gate open actually doesn't help me in the long run, so it might have been a good idea to just not have that gate open, and just those spearmen were sort of distraction force. So now I'm sending my Black Arc Corsair. So what I was saying before is I've activated a right, not a right, a ability that Malekith has called Druki Discipline, I think it was, which decreases the damage dealt by my melee infantry, but gives them extra melee defense, so they become much better at holding the line and dealing kind of damage over time to troops, which is great, except that this is where they get their first healing, I think, or second. So what I was saying is that's great if I've got something that's going to deal a lot of damage to them. If I don't, which in this case I don't, it actually I need them to grind through. I need them to grind through troops as quickly as possible, and they can't do that if they decrease their melee prowess, which is kind of unfortunate. That being said, that same Druki discipline actually gives my archers better ability, so that's pretty great. And this is where I got my second Manticore summon, where I'm going to send her in the back and summon that Manticore in the back to kind of continue that distraction, that kind of dilling around in the back there, which not my worst plan in the world, but not the greatest in the world either. So we're sending her in the back there to summon that last Manticore. We got another Manticore summon that's I'm pretty sure going to break here in a little bit. And I think we're also going to get a new Shopti summon pretty soon here. So what's nice is that Tomb Prince cannot stand against the Black Ark Corsairs very well. So he's going to take a lot of damage. I've got the other Black Ark Corsairs basically going against Spearmen and Archers, and they can't really do anything. The Naggarond Warriors actually really good in SFO Grimhammer. They do pretty good damage to my Black Ark Corsairs. So nothing to sneeze at in SFO. So I'm debating casting a spell here, but I opt for... Oh, do I actually cast the... Yeah, Carrion, yep. So it helps out with some damage there, some damage over time, and I'm going to send my Sorceress kind of in the back to help out a little bit, because I can see folks are struggling, and to mess with Kotep's mana regeneration, though I don't think that's where he was. I don't think that's what was happening in that scenario. I think it was some sort of an army ability. So I'm going to get myself another Arcane Conduit, and I'm going to summon, I believe, the Manticore here to help out. I'm going to send Rakarth against Kotep and hit the Lure of the Pale Queen to make sure those horses don't join the fray. And then I think... Okay, I'm trying to reposition, trying to drag some of my... I was using that Lure of the Pale Queen to try to drag some of my units out. Two of them made it, but another one I think ends up breaking and fleeing. So this is where I summon another Manticore to attack their already heavily damaged and near broken units. Again, their flying units are going to try to go after mine, which sucks because it's going to pin some people down. That's where the summoned Manticore dies, and I got another Manticore being summoned, and I've noticed that my Hydra has actually broken through and is facing some skeleton spearmen. Not the best target for him because he's, large and they're anti-large, but you know what? It's not bad. I mean, they're just skeleton spearmen. They're not going to do much. I've got those Black Ark Corsairs grinding. I've got those Black Ark Corsairs grinding through. They're going to be archers dealing as much damage as they can as quickly as they can. We've got like 4 archers focusing on that one band of Naggarond warriors, and we've got these archers probably going to go after, their own skeletal archers, and then I'm going to send those Black Corsairs in the back against, unfortunately, technically overwhelming odds. Let's see what I got here. Yeah, I've got some Manticores, and then I've got Rakarth trying to help out here. I want to break some of those flying guys, some of those carrions. And then I've got my Sorceress. I think she's starting to take some damage. And I've decided to use another Noxious Breath on those archers to deal as much damage as I can. It's unfortunate about those Manticores in the back there, but they don't end up dying, so that's totally fine. Just focus on those archers, and then I'm gonna go charge down. I think back on Kotep. Oh, the Carrion ended up attacking me, so I'm not actually able to hit the Noxious Breath. So smart on their part. They've I'm having some trouble there clicking on the Carrions. So smart on their part. They've stopped that cast but I'm going to... I wonder if I end up using the Amber Spear here or later. I can't honestly remember off the top of my head. You can see that I'm sending my Black Ark Corsairs to a very difficult fight, and now I just finally realized that I haven't actually told the battering ram to break down that gate, so I'm going to do that. And this gate is very nearly destroyed, I believe. Yeah, I think it's pretty low. And I've got that Hydra doing some damage. You know, he'll do what he can against those spearmen. He'll pretty much destroy them. Yeah, he'll take some damage, but it'll be okay. The skeleton spearmen. Their function is not to deal damage, so they shouldn't. They shouldn't do too much against me, so I'm not overly worried about that. What is going to suck, however, is right there. I noticed that I'm getting... I don't notice right away, but I'm going to notice here in a second that I've got a Nishapti summon coming right down there. So I immediately realize that and start to reform my archers so they can take crossfire as much as they can. I've got as many archers firing at those Nishapti as possible, and I've also got those towers dealing some damage. So that's good. So those Nishapti will go away pretty quick, but I do end up taking a lot of damage on one of my archers, on one of my Dark Shard units, which is unfortunate. But those Nishapti summons, man, they can do a lot of damage to an unprotected foe. I've finally broken through the wall, and that Charybdis is going to help out with the Naggarond Horseman and the Skeleton Spearman that the Hydra is kind of struggling with right now. And that's where the Doomfire Warlocks are going to come in. Check who's withdrawing, and it's probably, yep, it's the Dark Shards, so they're taking their damage. But the Nishapti are kind of getting picked apart by the Dark Shards as much as they can. And let's see, I've got that gate batter down, but I'm just going to send the Spearmen back to hold the Nishapti for as long as they can. And I've got my Doomfire Warlocks coming in. This is, I think, the point where I start using their magic a bit more. So they've got two bound spells, Doombolt, and what was the other one? I think it's the one that messes with armor. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but it's going to be in the tooltip here in a second, as soon as I click on it. So this is where I realize I've got the Doomfire Warlocks coming in, and I use is.
We are ready.
And I'm also going to use one of their Doom Bolts on a group of archers to deal some damage up there. Could have been a better spot for that cast, but okay, so the Nishapti are gone. So now I'm going to refocus my units so that they can get rid of those Naggarond warriors, and you can see down there that against two units, the Black Ark Corsairs are having some problem. Finally, I pull back my my guys in the back there to kind of relieve. I'm sending my Doomfire Warlocks and sending over the Beast Sorceress to deal some damage to pick down the last of what's left up here. If she was a bit healthier, I might have actually sent her in. Allure, the Pale Queen's going to keep their units still for a little while my archers devastate the last of the Naggarond warriors over there, and then we'll have some folks go in and start focusing these guys inside the gate, while my archers reform as the Naggarond warriors are basically going to crumble up top. Now I think Rakarth and the rest of the flyers are going to come over to the front, to that front gate there, and kind of help out and deal some damage. While my Black Ark Corsairs, unfortunately, because of those diminished melee capabilities, they can't actually do as much damage. They kind of need somebody to support. And unfortunately, a bit of mismicro on my part. I didn't tell my my Charybdis Hydra and the cavalry that I have over there. I didn't tell them, hey, go attack those units in the rear, you know, do a bunch of damage to them. Instead, I just sort of let them hang out here for a second, which was a miss. Which again was miss micro on my part.
I shall prevail.
And then Rakarth ends up
Moving.
breathing
Dominate.
some noxious fumes. Oh no, I have my Hydra and my Charybdis kind of...
Predators! All!
Okay, so I don't bother doing noxious
Total
fumes.
annihilation!
But I will do a rear charge with Dragon and the Charybdis and the Hydra. It's kind of a little too late. I've already had that one unit of Black Ark Corsairs break. I think the Spearmen eventually come back. Yep. This is where I kind of reform and do the last bits of the fight here.
To destruction! Beast Master! Prepare yourselves, beasts!
I'm reforming all of my beasties now, and we're looking to
Setting forth.
destroy as much as we can the last remnants of their reserve forces.
Shenlu.
I think if they had attacked right away to kind of if they had attacked right away to kind of hit me while I was not so ready, I think that would have been good. But they also utilized their magic really well here in a little bit. So that's going to be pretty devastating for my infantry here in a second, and we'll see what happens.
Dark shards!
So I'm just getting everything ready, reforming a bit here.
Rakar!
And I kind of drag this out a little bit.
Onward.
I think I could have used an Amber Spear. The thing is, the Amber Spear is really a single target hit. Like, it is one big booger that hits a single guy.
Carnage awaits.
So I kind of put the beasties in the front. I realize this is not the best move. I want to put the archers in front so they can hit their archers a little bit easier. I tell the archers to go after really quick, and then I have to pull back my infantry and my beasts because they're kind of in the way of my archers. They're kind of standing right where they want to be shooting. So once I realize how slowly everybody's shooting, I realize, oh, a bunch of my dudes are in the way of... So they're having an obstructed view of their targets. So really quickly I just reform the infantry and monsters behind the archers so they have a much clearer shot, and I take out all their archers. Though in truth, I think a better target, the best target honestly for the armor-piercing rounds of the Dark Shards would be something heavily armored. For example, both those Ushapti are much better targets than their archers. Their archers are very low priority. They don't have very much HP. Or rather, they have a lot of HP, but they don't have a lot of damage output, so it's not exactly useful. And I toy around with the idea. I'm not sure if I actually do it. I don't think I cast it. No, it looks like I didn't. It looks like I'm setting up for an Amber Spear.
Going.
But their archers, I'm pretty sure, are going to crumble before I even a chance. And then the Grand Hierophant uses that ability again that kind of nullifies all my spells and all my spells and abilities for 15 seconds. But they're just letting their archers get picked apart. Let's see here. Yeah, I think next I'll end up going for the Ushapti to the right because they're the more damaged. But I waste a lot of ammunition hitting those archers. It's kind of not the best use.
Battle ready. Slash! Kill!
Sending them after those, and I'm gonna also... Man, the Grand Hierophant really likes that ability to mess with my allies are cowards, really. So we're getting rid of those Ushapti pretty well.
Merciless host!
Okay, so we're gonna use Soul Blight. I think that's what it is, Soul Blight. To diminish their armor a bit so that the armor piercing can punch through even more armor. And we're also going to, I think one of my Doomfire Warlocks, I'm going to tell him to use the Doom Bolt against that. What is it called? The Naggarond Horseman over on the right, rather on the left over there.
Without question.
Yeah. I don't think it deals a stunning amount of damage, but it does do some, and that's pretty good. Doom Bolt is really, has to be like against things that are super, super heavily clumped, or against like a single target, I think is where it shines the most. So this is where I'm going to send up my infantry, and I think this is where he gets a really good cast of that storm spell. Luckily, I don't have like really heavily clumped infantry at this point because I have sparse, rather sparse infantry. So it could have done, it does do a lot of damage, don't get me wrong, but I think it could have been much worse.
Ready. Onwards to murder.
This is where the Doomfire Warlocks are coming
Setting
in.
forth.
And looks like they're committing to the final fight, so this is where I send my flying units to take out that last Carrion Crow. The Carrion unit, and this is where I'm going to breathe fire on some Ushapti and some Ice Breath in the Ushapti to kind of hit them from afar right away,
Sorceress of Grund.
while my archers deal whatever they can. Carrion are attempting to take out probably the Sorceress, I think, but then they end up hitting the archers instead, which is still not a bad target for them. They're shutting down some folks. Yeah, got Rikarth going in to destroy the Carrion. Yeah, this is where he gets that sandstorm. It deals a lot of damage to my people, throws them around, really messes with my infantry formation. But since I sent in my monsters to fight theirs anyway, it's still really good for him, but not as good as it could have been.
No mercy.
I think this round here is where actually the Grand Hierophant goes in, so this is where I'm taking the advantage to kind of deal some damage to him directly.
Boundless suffering.
Yeah, the Hierophant is going to die here real quick. He doesn't have much in the way of defense. And that's going to cause the rest of his army to crumble away because they just don't have anything keeping them together anymore.
By Dracula.
And I'll send my Doomfire Warlocks to those, up against those chariots to kind of get rid of them.
It is done. Following order.
Using the last of their spells up. I could have utilized those a bit better, I think. Especially because I get a bit of friendly fire in.
Dark elves.
But ultimately, yeah, I was going to use it, but I was going to use that Doom Bolt one last time, but then I opted out of it. There's no point. Those chariots are disintegrating now. And that is the end of the chariots, I believe, right there. Yep. So it ends up being a close victory rather than Pyrrhic victory, so better than it could have been, but better than the Outer Resolve, rather, but there were a few things that I definitely could have done better, so all learning experience right there. All learning experience. So I think I end up actually that middle unit of Black Orc Corsairs. I actually end up losing those. I think that's my that's my main casualty of this one. None of the other units get completely wiped out.
Rakarth does not fail.
Which, darn, you know, that really does suck. But I end up sacking this city to get that replenishment.
They will tremble before Rakarth.
And then I'm going to set up the raiding so I can heal a bit.
Terrorize these fools.
And we're going to get the Apex Predator, I believe that says, because the other two make sense for having monster pens, but in this playthrough, since I'm playing as Malekith, I don't actually have monster pens. So those two skills are kind of go to waste. So rather have the Apex Predator so that I can give murderous prowess to all of my monsters in Rakarth's army. That's going to be a really good buff to them. Let's see. Yeah. That I'm pretty like I'm saying. I think I'm saying there that I'm pretty sure those two armies are not going to be able to get to me anytime soon, so it's not as bad to have those up there. I'm going to build out the slave potential of this province with some slave pens and some slave slums to increase my income over here and decrease the slave decline rate so that I can have more slaves to have a better economy in the long run. And I don't think I upgrade this settlement. I think I end up going to the damaged settlement and repairing it. I also want to build up Lothern so that Lothern, I think I get a buff, or it's a piece of technology that's gated.
Supreme Sorceress of Grond.
Yeah, it's a piece of technology. It's technology that's gated from having Lothern upgraded completely. So once I have that, I'll be able to get that piece of technology. So here I'm going to build up some of my defensives. I opt away from this settlement and opt for this Naggarond, I think it's called. Again, it's really hard for me to read some of these words, especially with the low quality on my end. And I repair Hag Hall, that's right, and then I think I end up doing some other upgrades. No. Okay, so I just end the turn, and let's move on. Hopefully the AI doesn't screw me over too badly. But I think this is the point that we see. This is the payoff here that I was talking about. This is the huge my misunderstanding, basically that I misunderstood how the Chaos Invasion works in SFO Grimhammer now. I'm not sure if it works that way in the vanilla game because I haven't played in a long time, so it's kind of fuzzy. But here's where the Warriors of Chaos, I'm like, oh no, that's Naggarond, that's me. So it turns out they're coming from all of the north, not just that top right corner of the map. So I realize here that I don't have walls and they have really high tier troops. There's not a good way for me to hold them back enough to deal enough damage. So I opt for an auto resolve of this fight because look at all that high tier shenanigans. You know, the special Khorne troops, the special Slaanesh troops, the special Nurgle troops. I've got giants and all kinds. So yeah, this one really hit me hard. I was not expecting a sudden, influx of all this chaos to the north, which it should have been. That's kind of the whole thing. So now that I've got that to deal with, I'm going to be sending a good number of forces up north to do what I can, to devastate what I can of theirs so that mine don't get thoroughly destroyed. So now I've got an invasion to the north to deal with as well. I think this,
we're ready for them.
Because these are walled, because this settlement is walled, I think I'll be able to take it a little bit easier. Obviously, if I sally out, it's not walled, but if they attack me straight on, it will be a walled settlement they have to deal with. So that's a good thing.
Pulling back.
Which might help me survive this fight, or at least deal enough damage for it to matter. The rest of these fights, I've got, I think, so this settlement as well is not as well defended as I'd like it to be. And I'm gonna decide, you know, Naggarond will be okay, but the rest really needs some help. So what I'm gonna do, I think I'm going to recruit a Lord in Naggarond so that I can start pushing chaos back. This province over here, Dreadwood, I think, or the Darkwood, Deadwood maybe. It's really tough to read. So this settlement I'm kind of writing off, right? Like I'm probably gonna lose that. It's too far. It's far to the fringes of my current empire. There's nothing I can do much about it. The Road of Skulls, I might be able to hold it for a little while. They've destroyed one of my settlements, but that's because it didn't have any walls for them to deal with. The rest of them might be a little bit more difficult. This one also might not be too bad. Again, it really depends. Yeah, it honestly depends on whether or not they decide to attack the settlement after sieging it for a little while, or if they try to, you know, attrition me away. So it's going to depend on the AI. I'm obviously not going to sally out to this fight. It's not winnable in that state, I don't think. At least not for me. Maybe somebody else could manage it. Oh, I didn't have that Error of Anarian abilities activated. I didn't have the Druki Discipline active. I honestly thought I did for the last fight, so I take back everything I said about my infantry. I think they were just struggling with, you know, 2 against 1, and they were not able to overcome, you know, that sheer number advantage that the Naggarons, that the Tomb Kings had. So what I want out of these sorceresses, I need armor piercing. So the Chaos has a lot of armor to deal with. I know Shadow Magic does a lot of armor piercing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get 2 Shadow Mages, a Knowledgeable. I get lucky here and I get Knowledgeable for 1. And I'm going to get her to Penumbral Pendulum. I think it was the Withering, or did I use Enfeebling Foe? It looks like, yeah, it's going to be the Enfeebling Foe. Okay. And then I'm going to get a Lord, same Supreme Sorceress, same Shadow Magic, and go down to Confident, I believe I end up taking it. And I'm going to give her even more magic. So magic is going to be heavily important here. So Penumbral Pendulum, the Withering, or Enfeebling Foe rather, and then the
Supreme Sorceress of Gron.
extra starting winds and the miscast chance reduction. Like we're going to need that super badly. So I initially was going to get two Reaper Claw Bolt Throwers, but I opt for instead some archers, I believe. Or no, spearmen. Okay, some infantry. So Malekith, I'm going to send him as quickly as he can, as you know, around Ulthuan. It would have made more sense to go through Ulthuan since I own the gates, but it's a moot point now.
Double time. The ocean awaits.
They're moving as quick as they can. Now these guys, I'm sending Malice Darkblade. Yeah, he's going down south a little bit. Nobody's at the Temple of Talankan, if memory serves. And I'm also sending the the Black Ark rather, Admiral Leech Krakenclaw. He's going to declare war on the Hunt Marshal's expedition.
Kill them.
And we're going to blockade this port, and then go in
Great gods of Druki.
with Malice to reinforce from the land.
Voyaging. Slaughter them all.
And have the Black Ark devastate.
We will make them bleed.
Yep. And we're gonna end up. Let's see what I'm raising. So I get a huge chunk of change out of that, which allows me
mistress of Haganeth.
So Crone Hellebron is actually going to go...
Tyrant of Naggarond.
Yeah, she's going to go up
Plotting a course.
with her
Bloody-handed
Black Arc.
priestess. Tame the sea.
Claim that island right there. Get another chunk of change with an auto-resolve victory because it's really
Pain is
simple.
watching.
Get another chunk of change right there. That's really good. So now we can go back. Okay, I think I just ended up auto-resolving this one too with Rikarth.
Fail me and face the light.
To occupying, get some healing in from Rikarth from this area. And we can recruit a few units.
Master Druki.
We're going to send him not straight to those walls, but let's send him over a little bit south of the wall.
With the tides. A hollow observance.
Okay, and then we're gonna go and the Highborn captives to hold that province in check while we go up to our recruiting emergency army and throw in some more guys because now I have the coin to actually support it. So it's some more spears, and I think I do a couple of dark shards because the shield variant isn't needed. They don't have much in the way of ranged. And I've got a whole bunch of regiment and renown, but those are going to be emergency troops. Like if I super need to get an army suddenly, I can get one in there and fill it up pretty quick. So I think I'm gonna, God, I think I'm gonna end up losing Harganeth. Hag Grief is gonna get an upgrade because I can afford it right now, and they're going to. What do I end up picking for these? I can't honestly remember. Is it something to do with money? I think I just leave it alone for now because I need to shore up some defenses and make sure that Nagashi Zar isn't going to fall away from me real quick. I think I forget to check Lothern. I think that's my mistake. I'm going to run out of money here in a second. So this is where I realize, oh hey, do not, if you're going to be playing this campaign as Malekith, don't take the Galleon's Graveyard. It doesn't really do much. It just sits there and is. I should have raised it for all that cash. I would have gotten a lot more cash out of it than I did and than I am right now. So no point have taken it. That was a mistake. Let's see, where else am I going? I think. Oh God. Yeah, this is gonna be a rough one. I don't know how I'm gonna recover. I'm gonna lose a lot of land here from this chaos invasion. I'm hopeful I can push it back, and I will be able to push it back. It's just going to take, it's going to distract me for a minute here. I wonder if I had gotten rid of, probably not. I'm thinking if I'd gotten rid of that Norskin, those Norskin armies, like all that Norskin territory to the super far north, if the Chaos armies would have still spawned, they probably would have. It just would have been attacking the Norskin settlements first, so it would have been like a few turns worth of buffer before they would have attacked me. Because I'd have some really sparse fortresses up there to guard against that kind of invasion, so it wouldn't have been as bad. All right, let's see what the AI's got in store for us now. What kind of shenanigans they can pull. I am not excited about the Chaos invasion. You know, if it's something that added in SFO, or even if it's in the vanilla game, I think I kind of like it. I do kind of like it because I like the Chaos is like scarier now. It actually means something that they attack. Yeah, and it looks like they're going to go in for the all-out assault of the of this settlement. So I am hopefully going to be able to defend this. I'm going to try to use the Lure of the Pale Queen to cut them off as much as I can. I also have another army ability, but I don't have I don't have any direct magic, so this is going to be a rough one, and I am not looking forward to it. But we're going to see how that plays out. We're going to see how that plays out, though, in the next episode. This is where where I ended it a little while ago. We've got, I think, a few more minutes left in the recording, but honestly, there's not much to say at this point. Yeah, it's going to be a rough fight. It's going to be a rough fight because of that. If you see in the middle there, the map, there's like that pack of buildings that just kind of block off some of my routes. So if I put people on that side, like on one side away from the capture point, they're going to be cut off essentially from everybody else. So that's going to suck really, really bad if I end up doing that. But yeah, so next episode we're going to attempt to not get ourselves murder-fried by the old chaos. And hopefully next time I'll actually be able to record my voice in real time rather than doing this sort of weird voiceover thingy. Anyway, I'd like to thank everybody for watching, and we will see you all in the next episode. Have a good one.